Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the video. So a couple of days ago, the R5c was officially announced. There are pre-orders, and one of the big questions I've seen so far is, do I need to upgrade if I have an R5? Do I really need this camera? And the quick answer is probably going to be no for about 95% of you guys who have the R5. And I'm going to tell you why next. But before I do that, I just want to let you guys know, if you like the video, if you like any of my videos, please don't forget to give a thumbs up as it helps the video greatly. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel and even maybe hit that bell notification icon. That way you get alerts anytime I put out new videos in regards to the photography and technology industry. Now let's get to the video. All right, most of you guys who have been following my channel for a while know that I shoot with the R5. I use my camera for videos for my channel, as well as photography for my primary line of work. And with that said, there are lots of other people who purchased the R5 with the same type of thing in mind when they got it. Now, the unfortunate thing is once we got our R5s, we realized that some of the video capabilities that were advertised weren't nearly as usable as what we thought they were going to be. The camera since launch has been plagued with overheating issues, mainly when you're shooting anything at 4K high quality or above, which makes the 8K recording almost useless on this unit. Now, that didn't really affect me personally in how I use this camera, as I do generally keep my recording in Super 35 crop mode, which uses a 6K downsample and records in 4K high quality. I can essentially run my camera like this for long periods of time and not really have to worry about the overheating issue. The one thing I do still have to worry about is the 30-minute record limit. Now, what we've seen from Canon so far with the R5c, now that we see 100% official specs for the camera, is that it and the R5 are extremely similar. In terms of recording formats, they both do pretty much identical recording formats. The main difference is that you can do it without overheating because the R5c does have active cooling. Now, you are also going to get the addition of 8K 60 frames, but you are required to have an external power source to record that. So that's not a mode that you can just use if you're out and about shooting. You would have to have some type of high-powered battery pack running through the USB-C, or some type of portable power with that cable plugged in to get the 8K 60 frames. Now, speaking of the active cooling, that was one of the biggest upgrades they did to the R5c. That way you can now record anything you want in camera and not have to worry about, it overheating while you're doing video on a project for a client or whatever. Along with that, the entire video side of the R5c has been completely switched over to the cinema software. That's something that I don't think a lot of people really thought was going to happen before it was launched, but it does have the same video software as what the C70 has. So you're going to get a ton of cinema options on the R5c. Now, like everything, generally when you get something, you do lose something. In this case, they did take away the IBIS from the camera. Canon states that a lot of videographers don't have any interest in the IBIS because of the IBIS wobble, but there were ways to disable the IBIS on the R5 so that you didn't have to really worry about it. Not to mention, where IBIS wobble affected most was usually at 28mm or below. And you're going to have a lot of people shooting with cinema lenses or lenses in general at higher focal ranges than that. Generally, if you're going to be filming cinematic stuff with the wider angles, you're probably going to be moving a little bit slower anyway, where you're not really going to see the IBIS wobble at all, especially if you're on a gimbal, where you're possibly not going to really even see the IBIS wobble, not to mention being able to fix it in post-production. Now, the R5c looks like it is a hybrid between the C70 and the R5. It looks like they took some of the better options from both cameras and put them together. Now, I'm personally on the fence with how I feel about the removal of IBIS. Because this is also a camera that was meant to shoot stills, you are going to lose IBIS on the stills side. A lot of people have come to gotten used to that on the R5 and R6. Now, the thing that I want to remind people, however, that up until the R5 and the R6 came out, there was no IBIS in Canon. These were the first cameras to have it, and every Canon user before these two units got along fine without it. For anyone already on the R5 platform who has now gotten adjusted for IBIS in the photography side of it, losing it could slow down your workflow from what it was before, because anytime you get used to something, it's hard to get unused to it. Now, some of the other more popular cinema cameras like the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 6K and 6K Pro also do not have IBIS, and I'm going to talk more about that camera in a little bit. Now, to go back to the answer of the question that I answered at the very beginning of the video, if you are an R5 user, should you or do you need to upgrade to the R5c? And like I said, for 95% of people, the answer is probably no. Unless you're in a job using this camera where you are going to be doing video more than anything, you're doing, corporate commercials, things of that nature, and the R5 is just not able to cut that for you, then yes, you are one of the people that probably want to go to the R5c. If you're a stills photographer and a videographer, you probably won't want to transition at all, because the R5 in that case will give you a good balance of both. Now, on the video side, I did mention some other options. Now, let's say you love the photography capabilities of your R5. You also like that you can shoot good video in short bursts, but you also want the option to shoot bigger video content. A suggestion I would make is possibly consider having a second camera just for video. Now, I mentioned the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro earlier in the video, and that is a camera that does absolutely fantastic cinema style video. Now, one of my favorite up and coming YouTubers by the name of Cody Scott has been able to build a 6-figure commercial videography enterprise using the Blackmagic 6K Pocket Pro, and the quality of his work speaks for itself. Now, for any of you who have never seen this gentleman's channel, I highly recommend you checking out. While he's a small YouTuber, he gives a wealth of information on his channel for free. One of the things he loves to do more than anything is help teach other people the things that he's learned that's helped make him successful in his videography journey, as well as his YouTube journey. And for anyone interested, I will put his link down in my description below for you to check him out. Now, one of my main reasons for pointing out this camera specifically is because it uses EF glass natively. And I know myself, as well as a lot of the other R5 shooters, tend to have EF glass with adapters in their kit. Not only can you find EF glass at a much better price than the RF glass, which is why still some of us use it, and a lot of those same lenses are going to be able to snap right onto this camera. The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro runs at about $2,500 brand new. You can find it for about $2,000 used. And now that's going to give you the advantage of having the best of both worlds without spending a ton more than what you would have on an R5c. Now, something that the Blackmagic camera does that neither of these Canon cameras do, which is one of my favorite things, is it allows you to plug in a USB Type-C solid-state hard drive directly into the camera and record straight to the hard drive. Now, most of you know solid-state media is far less expensive and easier to come by than CF Express cards that they're using on the R5 and the R5c. Now, keep in mind, these are only suggestions. I by no means am saying this is the only way to go. I do, however, think it is a decent option to think about if you're one of those people that are kind of in between whether or not you should swap over to the full cinema and give up some of your photography capabilities if you do both on a consistent basis. Now, I would really love to hear from you guys. What is your feedback on this? Do you feel like you could get your entire job done with the R5c if you shoot on both sides, video and photo? Or do you like the idea of having something like your R5 or even your R6, and maybe also having something like the Blackmagic Cinema camera where you can share some of your lenses back and forth and get that best of both worlds? Alright guys, that's going to conclude this video, as this is something I was thinking about the other day in terms of what I personally wanted to do with my camera on if I thought it would be worth it. But I did come to the conclusion that I do use my camera too much for photography to get rid of it and go over to something like the R5c, where I do lose some of those things. I think moving forward, as my channel grows and I start doing more video, I may lean more towards something like one of the Blackmagic cameras. I've always been a fan of the Blackmagic cameras, and the video quality that's coming from these small pocket cameras is absolutely amazing for the cost price point, especially when compared to something like the C70 that is the equivalent cost-wise of almost 2.5 of these Blackmagic cameras. Once again, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you like the video. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. And with that said, until next time.